Right, great to be catching up with Mr. Matt Isaacs tonight on Smoking Up Sprint Night here at Melton. Firstly, Matt, welcome.
G'day, Paul.
Very wet night, unfortunately, for participants and the industry as a whole.
It is a bit gloomy out there.
Yeah, it's about right across the board. Flemington races today. It's very hot, wet, and very trying. Want to catch up in regards to the pathway to sustainability put out just over a week ago, or just under a week ago, probably when this goes out. Recent announcements, hard decisions been made, fair to say. A lot of stake cuts, Vic Bread bonus cuts across the board. People losing their jobs. Luke Spano, one of those people that won't be with us anymore. I just want to, I suppose, get your thoughts on it, the understanding of it, and probably ask you a couple of the curlier questions, if you like, a little bit later.
Sure thing. Yeah, well, it's a difficult thing, and nobody, particularly myself, likes having to cut stake money or prize money, or the returns to our participants. It's ultimately the most important thing to keep everybody engaged in our industry. But over the last 18 months since I've been here, we've obviously been confronted with some significant challenges. If we go back to 2018, 2017, harness racing has essentially been losing money, a significant amount of money since around 2017. That's coincided with a drop-off in what was our joint venture fund, our biggest funding mechanism, the joint venture with Tabcorp at the time. Obviously, the growth in corporate bookmakers didn't deliver the same levels of returns as the joint venture did. So we were impacted there. Government were sustaining us with significant investments into different initiatives or operating funding through that period. But that's obviously all come to an end last year, and we need to start operating within our own abilities, and our own abilities are to operate within the revenues that we can generate. So over the last 12 months in particular, we've worked closely with government, working on different strategies to be able to get back to a break-even business model. And that means difficult decisions need to be made. And sadly, returns to participants were at 60%, 66% of our revenue to returns to participant ratio was 66%, which was significantly higher than that of greyhound racing here in Victoria and thoroughbred racing here in Victoria, which are at 50%. So we had to address that. We obviously we announced some changes last year and again this year around our operating structure at Harness Racing Victoria, and there's some more work to do there. And you touched on Luke, who's been a great servant to the industry, and we are finding ways that we can operate a lot leaner at Harness Racing Victoria, and we'll continue to do that over the next 12 months. So there is some hard things that we need to be able to deal with. And then earlier in the year, we obviously made some changes to the frequency of race meetings at clubs, etc. But I think one thing's inevitable is that there is always going to be change. Yep. We're going to have to keep changing to evolve to an operating model that one, recovers relevance in the marketplace, we get more people betting on the sport, and ultimately find the cheapest way we can deliver the product out there to maximise the returns to participants. So, the work we've done at this particular point, and I recognise how hard it is for our participants to have prize money reduced. It's done to ensure that we can have a sustainable future and have a future beyond next year, the year after. This puts us in a position that now we believe that we'll be able to operate within our means. We get back to a level of prize money similar to around 2017, because our revenue is essentially still where they were in 2017. So the profile of the business is returning to roughly what it looked like then.
I'm not going to say, is this it? Definitely not going to go from there, but is this close to sustainable? What we've had, and when I say this, not where we are at right now from the 1st of January, will that be sustainable for that year?
Yeah, we believe this is a significant and seismic change. Absolutely understand that. We believe that this puts us in a position very close to break even from not the end of this financial year that we operate in, but the prior year, so the financial year that would be 25/26. We are forecasting operating losses this year into next year with the third
Which is
year.
inevitable because you're making such big cuts.
You're making progressive shifts.
Yep.
So we still have forecast operating losses this year into next year, but putting ourselves in a position to be fully recovered by 2026. I would say that this is, I'll never say this is it, but I want people to understand that this change is the biggest change we will make. Ultimately, we want to be in a position where we can get back to the minimum returns of prize money returns to participants,
Yep.
and then we can start to layer things back in progressively if revenues recover, if the wagering market recovers. So we still have some headwinds that we need to navigate. We have a headwind particularly happening in the wagering category with advertising reform that's looking to come out of Canberra. That will have some significant impact on sports wagering in particular, but that has a flow-on effect for racing because the three racing codes here in Victoria generate some of our income through the point of consumption tax, which is also on sports betting. So if sports betting contracts, therefore income attached to sports betting that we receive as an industry will contract as well. But we're navigating that closely, and some of the measures that we've put in place, both prize money wise but operationally, are to try and provide some cushioning so we don't have to continue to keep doing this. Because Paul, the last thing I want to be doing is taking prize money down.
Yep.
I understand the impact on our people and all parts of our industry, but we have to do this just purely to be able to navigate the challenges that we're facing as an industry ourselves, and ensure that we can prosper into the future.
Why 50-50? You said there before you're paying out 66% back in prize money. The other two codes are at 50-50. Why? What's the significance with that?
Well, all three codes in Victoria, essentially, they're all funded the same way. So there is a cost to running the Principal Racing Authority. So there's no denying that. So, there's a cost for HRV, there's a cost for GRV, and there's a cost for RV. It all comes out of the same funding mechanism. So we have to find a way to balance that appropriately. But 66% was the highest in the country and essentially unsustainable. And the industry's enjoyed significant investments from HRV and government over the last 6 years that ultimately we couldn't afford. Now, whether that was breeding bonuses, whether that was the Vic bred bonusing, we didn't have the revenues there to sustain paying that.
So the Vic bred revenues, the government came in and said, we want to look after this industry, we want to keep people breeding, so we're going to help people breed, hence the Platinum was born, then the Pure come about it. Has that stopped?
So Vic bred, it's an easy question, but it has a complex answer, that one. In simplicity, government have provided one-off support at various different times, prior to my time being in the business. That all stopped last year. We've received solvency funding from government over the last 12 months. We continue to have some support around that at the moment. But government's expectation of us as an industry is to be able to ensure that we are living within our means, and our means are the revenues that we generate. So regardless of where that money's distributed to, whether it's prize money or breeding incentives or whatever it might be, it still returns to participants. So it still just comes out of our same revenue envelope. Government monies will still be available to support different initiatives in a one-off capacity. But if it's a one-off initiative, it's one-off.
Yep.
And then we, as HRV, we end up baselining that year on year, and we have to find ways to fund that out of our existing revenue model. And that's been one of the traps that HRV's found itself in over the last 6-7 years, is one-off support from government, setting expectation with the industry, and then having to fund that ongoing.
And the one-off support's there, but then they're not doing
and the one-off support stops or gets redirected to something
so
else.
Robbing Peters to pay Pauls and moving the deck chairs.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest thing I've found in my time coming is the expectation's been set. And, and it's very hard to take people on a transition to downsize. But the reality is we were investing and paying for things that we couldn't afford to do as an industry ourselves. And when the government support stopped, and I think understandably, we are well supported by government from a racing industry perspective, we have to find a way to be able to manage and operate our industry within the revenues that we generate.
Is the government's, I suppose, speed, if you like, on making these changes shock to you guys at HRV? And I don't mean just you sitting here. And we should say this. I mean, you're representing HRV sitting here. But has it come through a little bit quicker than what you may have been expecting?
Well, I probably want to make it clear that we've worked closely with government in my time, the 18 months I've been in the business. We've worked incredibly closely with government, Paul, to be able to ensure that we had the right runway to recover, the right support to be able to ensure that we didn't have to make more drastic decisions faster. This has been a 12, 18-month journey for the industry, and the industry should also understand that the operating losses have been there for a long time. They're published in every annual report, and I think if I went back to 2017, the then CEO at the time even indicated that the cost of operation of our industry was exceeding that of our revenues at the time. So this isn't a new challenge for us. It's just been masked by government support and COVID. And now what we would have been dealing with without either of those two things in, say, 2019, we're now dealing with in 2024.
So did COVID throw a curveball?
I think COVID built a level of expectation in our industry that things were going incredibly well, and they were at the time. We were receiving, obviously, money from government to help sustain the industry. Wagering turnover was up because it was the only thing to do, I think, from people being at home. And it's probably built an expectation that that's the new normal, but it isn't. And as I just said before, that when we've been challenged realistically around revenues, since 2017, and even before that, at the peaks of our joint venture funding, we're only a break-even proposition at best. We've got to. It definitely would have built an expectation that everything was okay, but the underlying performance of the business still was challenged, and COVID ultimately just delayed what we need to probably deal with right now,
and made it that little bit trickier, if you like. I brought COVID up. People like Luke Spano, who is now going to be leaving us, but he actually navigated harness racing through that period going forward. I suppose we better actually answer that door. We got the door and we got all that part sorted out. I was just mentioning there, someone like Luke Spano, who have successfully navigated us through the COVID times, and that he's leaving. You're cutting your staff back to the bare bones, but people probably don't understand the significance of some of these people we're losing, if you like, and people that are leaving our sport. And does that worry you?
Yeah, it does. Like Luke, we first and foremost have to get back to the leanest operating model we can. Now, losing talent is never ideal. Luke's had over 7 years in our industry and been an incredible servant. I've been fortunate enough to work, at some great companies, not just here in Australia, but obviously internationally as well. And Luke's one of the best capable minds I've ever worked with in my whole career. He's not just my most trusted lieutenant, but he's also a great mate, and he's going to be sadly missed by the whole team and by myself. And I couldn't speak high enough of Luke. The challenge is there comes a time that you also have to find, and Luke's contribution to the industry has been made, and for Luke, he has an opportunity to grow now into something bigger and beyond our industry as well. So
it's just one of those ones from where I sit. We're losing this guy that's offered so much to our industry, and now he's stepping away.
That's right, but it also gives a great opportunity for others to step up. We have some strong leaders that Luke's been able to develop. Thanks.
I reckon you better take a mouthful first, Max. We definitely try to not cut a lot of these interviews, but we will cut a couple of little pieces out, but it's okay.
So, Luke's been able to develop some great leaders in his team. So, Elise, who is our head of finance, will assume and step up the role as CFO. Elise has great experience, not just here now at HRV, but with Tennis Australia. So, ultimately, it will be business as usual for us, but it's never great to lose great people. But when one door closes for someone, a door opens for somebody else. So, we're really excited to have Elise's contribution now at a more strategic level, and the remainder of Luke's direct reports will also map into me now as well. So. It certainly puts a lot more strain on my time, but saying that, it's the sacrifices that we're making at HRV that need to be made to be able to run a smaller, leaner, and more efficient operation.
Smaller, leaner operation. Are there other ways we can save money going forward that won't have an impact, if you like, on participants? And things. There's no tracks closing. One of the big rumours that I hear all the time, everyone says all the tracks are closing. But do we need to consolidate tracks? Do we need to change the way we potentially govern what we have out on there to race with?
I think the simple answer to that is nothing's off the table. I don't want to be closing tracks because I think we've got an important role. All of our clubs have got an important role to play now.
But you've never said it either, like officially.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think operationally and how we operate our clubs, and we must challenge ourselves to find a more modernised approach. Yeah. They're not castles with a moat around them. We need to find a way that we could potentially utilise resources across clubs, utilise the capital equipment more efficiently. So there's a challenge there, and we'll work closely with the clubs to be able to resolve that and find the right way. Additionally, we have a tender process beginning for how we capture our imagery at tracks for distribution to Sky Channel and free to air and all that type of thing. So we'll look to find a more efficient way that the business does that than we have in the past. At the same time, trying to innovate the broadcast as well, because that's really important to be able to try to create engagement into the product. So we're going to continue to challenge ourselves on that. So we're pretty excited about some of the things that we are doing and that we'll continue to do. The period through April, May, June, we're the fastest growing racing code in the country. Our average race turnover was up quite significantly. July, August, September, it's been somewhat flat, but that's in the context of a really challenged marketplace still. So we're performing pretty well, and there's some things that have worked incredibly well with our race program that we've put out
tonight. The Smoking Up going early, and I know that's been sensational.
Yeah, we've had some significant results having the strong races early, because it's allowing thoroughbred punters, punters that aren't typically engaged in the category, a chance to follow, our lead horses and wager in it. As an example, I think 6 of our top 10 nights this year have happened through the course of winter on Saturday nights with our free-for-all racing in terms of race betting. So that's been an incredibly good shift. There's some things that are working, and there's some things that we've got to go back to the drawing board on as well. So, just getting the balance right of, when certain clubs are racing to ensure field sizes are up. Because once
that's ever evolving too, isn't it? I mean, there's clearly some spots that don't work at the minute, but it's not set in stone.
It's organic. It's going to continue to evolve. We will continue to evolve with it. So, and when you're trying things, you're not going to get everything right either. So, but on the whole of it, the race program is going okay. There's still some work we want to do around some timing of some key events next year. It'd be good to be not having these types of events in cold spring in Melbourne. But
Vicbred night was one of the coldest nights you can get.
It really snowed.
Yeah.
So so there's some good stuff happening. So we have next week Sportsbet sponsoring the Victoria Cup, which is...
Now, that's a one-off. It's not a new... Well, they are a new sponsor as such, but it's not a new sponsorship arrangement.
That's exactly right. So the whole estate agreement with TAB concluded the end of August, and we're working with a number of the different major providers to come on board as our partner, and Sportsbet, are one of them. And Sportsbet wanted to be able to demonstrate and be able to see, how things work, how we work with them, what it could potentially do to acquire customers for Sportsbet. So we're really excited to be able to test and learn with them. We have a great integration with them on the Get On show on racing.com next week. We had the team out here for a sulky race during the week, just past. And we're live free to wear again on racing.com next Saturday night. So Sportsbet will be, have a significant level of integration with that. So we're particularly excited about some of the things that are coming.
One of the things I did here today, coming here today to Lisa McEwen, her parade rings at Flemington are sponsored by Harness Racing Victoria. It would be a contra deal. I got no doubts I'd change of cash, but and they're promoting the Victoria Cup next week
on RSN. Where they're crossing. Absolutely, we did that both for Vicbred. We want to be able to connect and obviously build awareness of our product and some of our great racing, particularly to a larger audience, because that's how we grow.
Consultation and kindred bodies. How's the relationship, and how do you see the consultation part of what's been going on?
Well, we've been in constant dialogue now for 18 months about the challenges. So, consultation, all the kindred bodies, just like us, we don't like having to take prize money out, so nobody likes it. So we work closely, particularly with Morris from the Breeders' Association, because the Breeders' Association are challenged with people around the table at the moment. Morris would make it quite clear that he's very disappointed with the outcomes. But when you're goal seeking a number, it's very difficult to be able to get everybody being okay with it. So you got your baseline prize money and you got bonusing. It still all comes from the same bucket of money.
Yeah.
So if you don't reduce, if you don't reduce the the first win bonus, it means that baseline prize money is getting reduced to a greater extent. So pleasingly, though, we wanted to get it out. We wanted to be able to get an announcement out that was for 1st of January that doesn't change any of the ways that we carve up the money. It's just a reduction across obviously bonusing and base prize money. We now have time to be able to go back and work with people to be able to design, well, what should first win bonusing look like? What should some of our key events look like? So as an example, we have, to maintain Group 1 status on our Vicbred final, we need to have prize money of $150,000. Now, the industry might suggest that the group status isn't that great a concern, and we could potentially reduce that to distribute back through first win bonusing in other areas. So, but to make change and then to change the construct, I'd be accused of being very deceitful, I would have thought. So I'd rather make the change in its current construct and then look to change the construct secondary.
Because that's one of those things that people have said, take off the top, but not realising that it then affects Group 1. And it's simple to say, well, just that doesn't matter, take the Group 1 off. It does, because it has a flow-on effect of yearling sales, selling horses overseas, and it also loses that I suppose, the pride of winning one of those races.
Yeah, well, you want to be able to manage the prestige of harness racing here in Victoria, not just in Australia, but also internationally. Whether you're an entry level, passionate hobbyist owner or a more financial owner, you're still an owner and you're still looking to generate a return. Horses do cost different amounts of money at the sales, so we need to be able to have racing that has not just a strong bottom class or a strong upper class. We need to also ensure we have a very vibrant middle class, which I think we are challenged with at the moment. So we have to be able to get that right over time.
And then have the aspirations as well for people coming in.
That's right.
To reach the top, not just where they're happy with.
So. Well, we're a high performance sport, so we have to have aspiration, but we also have to ensure that the distribution is appropriate across the board. And I think, the changes to the baseline prize money indicate that. And I know there's some challenges or some frustrations out there with first win bonusing, but ultimately, it's only going to come out of base prize money to be able to sustain that. But there's a few other things we can look to do in terms of the construct, and we'll work with the Traders and Drivers Association, who have been fantastic through this process, and Morris, who has been incredible representing Hunters Breeders Victoria. So we'll continue to work closely with everybody to get the right construct. And but ultimately, we wanted to give people the appropriate level of notice of change, so they can make the appropriate changes to their business models and their cost bases.
And that's, as you said, so the consultation is still open, and it's still looking at different ways. But back to what you were saying, and back to what I asked you, you're not going to say it's as low as we will go, but hopefully this is as low as we ever go.
Yeah, that's right. And consultations continuous. We have a business that's continuous. It's never set in stone. So, but you could also get 50 people around the table, and you'll have 50 different outcomes, and ultimately the decision resides with myself and the board. So, we. I'm not going to apologise for that. We need to make the decisions and get on with it, and particularly when they're difficult decisions. So.
I won't keep you much longer. We're here at Melton. Where's the land at? It's as easy a question as I could ask.
So Anthony Butt has done a fantastic job on behalf of the industry to secure an offer for part of the land from a third party. We've provided that offer to government. We've provided our concerns to government in a written format. Government now have that. That is giving government, in terms of the racing minister and the racing office of racing, some leverage with their conversations they're having with their colleagues in different parts of government, to be able to realise the best amount of value we can for that land exchange. Reminding everybody that 2019 government policy changed, and it was no longer our land from 2019, but government and the racing minister are doing everything they can to be able to provide value back to the harness racing industry for that land. So our role at the moment is to maximise every bit of value we can through that exchange.
So the land has technically gone, but there is still the provision that we might be able to make effectively more money out of it by coming up with.
We want to be able to extract fair value for that parcel of land, and ensure that we can maximise that for our industry. So that has been the board's focus for the last 3 years, and my focus with board for the last 18 months.
And back to that initial process, the debt has been wiped, and a lot of people get themselves very confused with that. That was a debt to build this place, sustained by the land, build what we have here. So effectively, we didn't owe the government any money.
Yeah, debt was accrued for a number of different reasons. So buying some of that land, some of the debt associated to developing Melton, some of that debt is short-term debt on paying out prize money that we didn't have the cash flows to be able to sustain. So industry has benefited. But government has paid our debt to zero, and that's part of that value exchange with that land.
Yep. And
so we carry zero debt at Harness Racing Victoria,
which is huge, especially in this day and age right at the minute.
Well,
it'd be nice to own all the land, but
the debt, the interest bill on the debt would have been $2 million, $2 million for the year. So just a loan. So we can't continue to sustain that. So we, once again, operating with our means. So there's a level of austerity, but it's austerity right through parts of the industry, and we need to, we need to be smart. We believe we're being smart. We're being somewhat ruthless in some of our decisions, but it's smart to ensure we have a really prosperous future for harness racing, and progressively we will continue to rebuild belief in us all as an industry, and we'll continue to build relevance out there in the broader wagering market, so we get more customers betting on harness racing because they're excited around our product and excited to be associated with it.
That is one thing I'm going to throw back at participants, is we need to be challenged to put a product out there. It's all good and well to throw rocks at you guys or whoever else, we get losing our money and all the rest, but we need to take ownership. Paul Rouse, Ballarat, the other night came up with a great idea. It's not going to solve the problem, but it is going to help breeders. It is going to come up with some more ideas. Surely out there's enough smart people out there. I challenge them to think about, put a better product on the track, but also come out with ideas that we become more relevant.
Most important thing, if I'm communicating to participants, owners, trainers, is to ensure that we maintain a high level of nominations, and we have races that have 8 horses plus. The greatest determining factor for wagering performance is your field size. So I encourage you to all play a role to do that. The product will take care of itself over time, but making sure we have strong fields is critical. People will bet on strong fields, and then obviously that returns back into the industry. So, but I think, Paul, HRV is not the enemy. We are the industry. We're all part of the industry. So we all got to work together to be able to ensure that we have a product that people enjoy and people want to bet on and people want to be entertained by. And we have to do that efficiently. We have to do that responsibly with the monies that we have available. But I know we all love it, so we'll all ensure it succeeds. So we're open to good ideas. So, and I did see your interview with Paul, and I thought, a small initiative, but such a good little initiative.
Helps the breeders, helps.
That's right.
Matt, thank you. I get told that you never see you and all the rest. I'll be honest, we don't talk for a while, then we sort of talk a lot. You actually reached out to me to do this interview. It is a Saturday. It is Smoking Up Sprint Night. You got Max, your young fella here, so I do really appreciate you giving me the time and us getting this out there for the participants to, I suppose, hear it from your words. Anyone wondering, there's a couple of edits. We did have the door knock. We had the drinks come. And if they're hearing the jiggling behind, that's Max enjoying his ice. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully we've answered a few questions out there for people. Keep your comments respectful. I think there was a couple last time on here that were a touch average. I respect people. I'm not free to lamblast people and all the rest. If you've got an idea, give an idea out. Otherwise, count to 10, and if you have to count again, we'll count again. But I really appreciate your time, mate.
Thick-skinned, not really fussed about the negativity. But if people have got a good idea or they've got a question, ask at hrv.org.au, and we'll get back to you.
That is working, I hope, because last time that was one of the comments I got.
Is that right?
It wasn't working.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you very much, mate.
Take care. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, mate.